I'm Leslie Wharton. I'm in Bethesda, Maryland. I'm co-chair of Elders Climate Action. John Hartz is just joining us. So Hazel, you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, I'm Hazel Chandler. I'm co-chair of the Arizona chapter, and I'm on the National Steering Committee as well. And coalition, chairman of the coalition committee.
Hi, this is Cliff Cockerham. I've been working at trying to found a chapter for the state of Tennessee the last few months. I've been traveling a lot and had some family issues. I'm going to be muting on the background because I can't control the sound on this end. But I'm ready to dig in.
All right, and we are going to tape this section, so if somebody has to leave early or is distracted, you will be able to get a recording of it and see, for instance, when Jen does her demo. Shirley, let me invite you to introduce yourself.
My name is Shirley McGrath. I live in Walnut Creek, California, which is 25 miles east of San Francisco. And we've had a ton of rain. It's been fabulous. And I work with the Northern California chapter.
Trivia question. Shirley, at Walnut Creek, do you belong to the elder intentional community in Walnut Creek?
No.
Okay.
What is the intentional community? Oh, in Concord? Next
no,
door?
in Walnut Creek. The reason I mentioned it is my wife and I were just out there doing a book on them. And
oh my gosh.
Okay.
Leslie, the reason I bring it up is because that's a major opportunity for growth, which we can discuss later. Thanks.
That's great. Let me just ask, when we have at this point, we can send a note to somebody using the chat box. So you can send a note to Shirley or to all of us about something. And let's jot down ideas for follow-up conversation or next meetings. And I don't mean to be rude, because we have a lot of things each one of us would want to share. But we do need, particularly with the Sunshine Movement thing starting in less than an hour, I know a number of people on this call want to get onto that. So let me ask Lenora, can you introduce yourself?
Hi there, Lenore Marentev from the Seattle area. We do not have a chapter yet, so I'm in the very beginning stages of thinking about trying to get one together.
Great. All right. Well, this is a good call to be on. Joe? Oh, yeah, you're muted. You're still muted.
Joe, I will unmute you. I'm having problems unmuting Joe. Oh, there we go. Now you're unmuted, Joe.
Okay, thank you. I'm Joe Oren. I'm co-chair of the Ann Arbor area Elders Climate Action chapter, home of the University of Michigan, although not my alma mater, I must confess. And we're expecting to get a 1/4 to a 1/2 inch of ice tonight.
Beverly? We're having trouble with the
Beverly, I can help unmute you. There we go. You're unmuted now, Beverly.
I'm in Phoenix, work with Hazel. I'm also with Citizens Climate Lobby.
John?
Hi, I'm John Sorensen. I live in Truckee, California, which is north of Lake Tahoe in the High Sierra. And I co-facilitate the NorCal ECA chapter with Shirley.
Thank you. Francis?
I'm in Bethesda, Maryland, and I'm trying to help Leslie see what we can do in our area to get our chapter sort of up and going again. A little distracted today because the Maryland General Assembly is in session. I've been trying to help pass our Healthy Climate Initiative bill.
Hunter?
Hi, I'm Hunter Mormon. I live in West Tisbury, Massachusetts. That's on the island of Martha's Vineyard off of Cape Cod. So I'm sort of a long distance member of the Massachusetts chapter, but the chapter leader there and Leslie and I and some of the others here have been talking about whether I can create a kind of pod over here across the waters. So we have a lot of, as you imagine, on an island, we have a lot of climate stuff going on. So one way or the other, we're going to be weighing in.
Very good. Cliff.
Yes, didn't I say I'm the co-founder of the Tennessee chapter?
Yes. And you also work with Physicians for Social Responsibility?
I'm the president of the Tennessee chapter of Physicians for Social Responsibility, and I just came back from 3 weeks in Central America staffing the papal visit on climate change with the Global Catholic Climate Movement, of which I chair the Tennessee chapter.
Fantastic. John Hartz.
Okay. Hi, I'm John Hartz from Columbia, South Carolina, where the weather today got to about 70 degrees. And we're going to get the same kind of weather for the next couple of days, which is totally ridiculous for this time of year. I guess Trump's call for global warming worked. And I've spent about the last 6 years or so as a volunteer for skepticalscience.com. One of the things I've been doing is maintaining their Facebook page, and now I'm doing the same for the Elders Climate Action. And I'm exploring ways to form a chapter here, but there's only about 9 people, I think, that are registered as members. So got both organizing as well as recruitment issues ahead.
Okay, great. And we have someone at a 415 number. Marilyn, is that you? You just muted.
Okay. Yeah. No, this is me. Yes, Marilyn from Mill Valley, California, and I heard John on the call, and I imagine Shirley's on too. And so glad to hear so many people on the call. And just a quick mention, I do have to leave at 4:30, unfortunately. I've got another meeting. So.
Okay. Well, this is being taped. So.
Good. Thank you.
Yeah, again, so we can move forward and people can get on to other things. And we can't address everything in any one of these calls, nor can we address everything in a series of calls. But our goal in this group is to see if we can identify the resources and get answers to questions, to form chapters or start forming teams or pods. And there's a lot going on. We're going to start tonight, and Jen is going to demonstrate live, show us how to fill out the chapter the chapter reports. And chapter members are asked to fill out a report each month, and then the chapter fills out a report. And that data is critical for us in both being able to magnify our impact and talk about what we've been doing and identify information and synergies. It's going to be critical for fundraising. Right now we have 1 part-time paid staff, and she's at least up in the upper left-hand corner of my screen right now. That's Jen. We would love to have more support so that we had people who could really help us answer the questions and build the resources and do the things that we need to make active, vibrant, expanded chapters. So a lot of the frustrations any one of us feels, and I'm there too, in trying to get going and identify people and learn information, is that we simply lack the resources. We've got lots of members. We've got a dedicated leadership team, but they are also volunteers and they have other things they have to do. So we're going to look tonight at the chapter report form. The idea is that each one of us, whether we have an active chapter or not, is going to try filling out that form for the month of February. and then for the month of March. And if, as a chapter member, you're filling out, I went to this event, I was on this call, I did this, fine. And then fill out the chapter report as if you were the chapter. But the idea is for us to have the hands-on experience of using these forms. And those who submit the forms in April will get together in a call to sort of debrief. What kind of data? How difficult was it? I'm suggesting that we do a 2-month pilot for the simple reason that the first time you do it, it's always, you know, oh, what do I do here? How does this go? Once we've done it once, hopefully the second time it's a little more natural. And you can always reach out to get assistance or get questions answered, or you would come back and look at the taping of this call. So I'm going to turn it over to Jen in a minute. But the idea of these reports is to start gathering data that helps us spot things that are activities or events that we can highlight, to get statistical information we can use in fundraising and a variety of other things. And we will have a chance to sort of debrief and sort of come up with, if we think they're better ideas or other things that we need to be collecting, that we will schedule for April. After Jen does her demo and answers any questions that you all have, then I would like to turn to a sort of a more open-ended climate tea and talk type conversation about where are we? Where are we in the next steps for building a chapter? It'll be different in every place. What are the issues that we're facing, or what would be specific information that would help us? And I know Cliff has put some stuff in the chat box already. So that's where I'd like to go tonight. And then to wrap up, to see whether those, you all who are on this call tonight would, you know, think that having a few more calls of this generic type, ones where we can talk, share, have resources identified or explained, you know, dig into parts of the handbook or other things that we've looked at and we're not quite sure about. And we can talk about scheduling maybe a call every couple of weeks, where we can continue this process of generating the information, the energy, figuring out the resources to move forward. Anyone object to this agenda for tonight? And I know not all of you can stay on, but because we're already 15 minutes into the hour, let me turn it over to Jen.
Hi, everybody. I'll try to make this pretty quick, but also I want to make sure that I'm answering any questions that y'all have. So if you want, feel free to, if you have a question as I'm going about a particular step, feel free to jump in and ask that question. I won't be able to see all of you to know if you're raising your hand because I'm going to be sharing my screen, so my view of you changes. So you can just unmute yourself and interrupt to ask your question about the process. But basically, I'm just going to go through the process of what the action report looks like, what the process looks like, and then what the form itself looks like. We'll actually submit a test version of the form, and I'll also show you where you can find the form. So let me just share screen. So one place that you can find this form is if you go to eldersclimateaction.org and you scroll to Get Engaged and the chapter directory. So that's where we are right now, is we're in the chapter directory. And this is where there's a listing for each of the chapters that are formed or chapters that are in formation. This is just a quick overview of that chapter. And then if there's a Facebook chapter page or a contact information, and then also a link to join that chapter for individuals. So if you're hosting an event and someone says, how do I join the Ann Arbor chapter, you can just direct them to this page and they can join from this page. The other thing that is fairly new is that each chapter has this green box, and this is the monthly member action report. So this is a way for your members to access a link to submit a form when they've done an event or they've done an action, rather without you having to go out and solicit that data for the report. You'll also want to send them an email to, or send emails to all your chapter members, but this is just an easy, quick link way. It's also a way that you can find the quick and easy link to your member report. So each of the chapters that are formed have this green section. And then down here at the very bottom, you're going to see quick resources for chapters. And these are these are all links to various things that you can find in your Council of Chapters folder on Google Drive. So let's look at the Council of Chapters folder on Drive. First of all, for those of you who are confused at how you get to Drive, one way to do that is, or the best way to do that is go to your Gmail, go to your, if you have Gmail, if you're an Elders Climate Action email address, you have Gmail, you can go right to the Google 9 boxes. For those of you who don't have Gmail, you'll likely have to go through our website to get that link the easiest way, to link into the Council of Chapters, or from the handbook, or various other places we've put the links. But you may not go to Gmail. If you don't go to Gmail to check email, then you won't have these 9 boxes. When you go to the 9 boxes, you'll see Google Drive. And when you click Google Drive, then Google Drive will open. And then for myself, I can scroll down my drive and I can find Council of Chapters. You can also search the search bar at the top of your screen for Council of Chapters, and you should see the folder pop up. And then you will also find it in Shared with Me. So because this folder was shared to you from me, it's going to be in your Shared with Me folder. You should be able to find it from that search bar though. Once we get to the Council of Chapters folder, each of the chapters has its own folder. And then the rest of the things in this folder are all shared documents or shared files between all of the chapters. So this is information that is relevant to any of the chapters. And then this is information that's relevant to the more specific chapters. So we're going to use Arizona chapter as an example. And we're going to go to the Arizona chapter's membership form. So this is the form that is their action report, the action report for the members of the Arizona chapter. Each chapter has its own action report form for its membership. And then each of these forms for each of your chapters dumps into its own Excel spreadsheet with the responses. And we'll use those responses for your chapter's action report. So there's 2 separate reports. One is how you gather the data from your membership, and one is how you relay the data to ECA about your membership. So let's go through what the chapters would do first, or the chapter members. So I'm going to fill this out as if I was a chapter member. So I'm going to say Jen Chandler. Like my fingers will work, and we'll put in. So anything with an asterisk is required. So name, email, and city are required. And then when we get here, we'll find the information that we're collecting about our chapter membership. So this is where they're going to put in their data about what they've done. So I myself have not attended a chapter meeting this month. So I'm going to mark these answers for myself as if I was a member. I made climate presentations this month. I made 1 climate presentation this month. I tabled at an event. I didn't table at any events this month, so I'm not going to fill anything out here. And I distributed pieces of ECA literature. I'm going to say about 100 pieces I distributed this month. I met with partner organizations. I didn't meet with any partner organizations, so I'm going to go ahead and leave that one blank as a member of Arizona chapter. And then participated in events. Yeah, I went to an event this month, so I'll log that one. And letters to the editor, I didn't do any letters to the editor. I didn't participate in any media events, but I did send a letter. So I'm gonna go ahead and log. Actually, I did send 3 letters this month. And then advocacy phone calls. I don't recall that I've made any phone calls this month or met with any elected officials or attended any meetings or town halls. I did attend a march, rally, or protest in the last month. And I did not meet with a community member or work with others in my community to address climate change. So now I'm just gonna briefly say what I participated in. So I participated in the Women's March. And then I wrote letters to my new Congress. And I could get specific here also, and I could say who those people were. For the sake of this meeting, I'm not going to worry about that. And
Jen, is there a text limit to that box?
There isn't, but you don't have to give us a huge amount of information, but you could hit the highlights of maybe some of the big things you did. If I met with a big climate partner, or if I had a face-to-face meeting with a legislator, I would want to log that here, because that's really important data that we can then say, oh, Arizona chapter, membership met directly with such and such. So we know that it is impossible that 99% of the people out there in the world are not going to do 100% of these actions. And we don't have any expectation of people doing 100% of these actions. All we're trying to do is capture the actions that are being done by our membership. So there's no judgment or grade or anything like that assessed to what actions our people are taking, but instead we can use this data, one, for fundraising purposes, but also to really look at and figure out what are the types of actions that our membership likes to do, and how can we develop more at a national level and down at a local level through the chapters. How can we customize the actions to meet what the membership is ultimately asking of us? So this information helps us in a variety of different ways. It gives us very quantitative data that we can take back to funders or when we're writing grants. We can utilize this in strategic planning processes, and like I said, developing new campaigns and new actions. So once I feel like I've logged my information here, I'm just going to go ahead and hit submit, and it says that my response has been recorded. So I'm done as the member of the chapter. I'm done with my responsibility, and ultimately, I think in most cases, here I explained it, so I talked a bit about it more, but in most cases, people could fill that out in a matter of a few minutes. What you would need to do as the chapter leader is get this link right here at the top, the URL, and send that link to your membership on a monthly basis. Or if you have a in-person meeting or a Zoom meeting where you share that information, and the chapter leadership itself can bundle that data to fill out its report, that's okay too. But we've created this really easy way for you to capture that information from your membership. But you as the chapter leadership would need to send the link to your members on a monthly basis and ask them to complete the data. So it would just need to become a culture of being an ECA chapter member for your chapter. Hey, we want you to be reporting back to us what you're doing. If people haven't done anything, they don't need to fill out the report. If people have done things, it's a great way for them to take pride in what they've done and share that. So this is the link. This is how you can get the link. You can copy and paste it to an email, and I can help you develop a template that you can send out monthly to your chapter members with the URL embedded in it if you need help doing that. But once that data is received, it's going to go back into your chapter folder. And here's the form that we filled out, the Arizona Chapter Members Monthly Action Report. It's a purple icon as the form, but here we see responses, the green icon. And in the responses form, or in the responses sheet, is where we're gonna see the answers, okay? We're going to see the answers, the responses to that form that that member just completed. And here, you can see the timestamp, so you know which month things were submitted for. So you can sort of group a month's worth of entries. Maybe there's only 2 people who have responded in a month, then you would just collect that data, but maybe there's 20 people who have responded in a month. You'll need to tally the data for that timestamp. And then you're gonna go over, and these exact same questions are the questions that it asks you for here in the monthly chapter report. So this chapter action report right here. So if we go to the chapter action report, I think I have it open. Yes, I don't. This report, I'm going to change the view so you see it. My view always comes up as the editor, so I have to change the view so you see it as a normal person. So then that information will dump directly into this form. This form is essentially a carbon copy of the previous form, with the exception of how the data is, the data will be for the whole chapter rather than for an individual. So again, we can go here, here, this is Arizona. And I'm completing this form as the chapter representative, Jen Chandler at Elders. And then that's Arizona. And then here, it's the same thing as the previous form that we saw for the chapter members. So just close out a few things so I don't confuse myself. So here we have that response from the original form. And then now we're gonna input that information into this. You can, if it's easiest for you to print this sheet out when you go to transfer that data over into the form, no problem, just print this sheet out. But you know, in this case, I can probably go through here and guess my entries for the sake of this demo. So let's just say that this was a no, and then the rest of it's going to be numbers. So total numbers, we had, I think I had 1 there, I had 0 there, I had 100, 0, 0, 0. This was 3. And I think that the rest, this was 1. And then I could cut and paste from this last field. So I can just Control C and go back to here and Control V and drop that in. And then go to next. And then this is more specific to your chapter. So did you have any new participants in any of your chapter events, your chapter meetings, or any calls that you might have had, or any actions that you might have done? Have you updated your chapter list? This is one thing, and we'll come back to this one later, so I'm not worried if you mark this no until we have another ECA session, chapter leadership session, where we talk about updating the chapter lists. But basically, if you receive any names at an event, you will need to help merge that into the chapter list that's in your chapter folder on Google Drive. And then if there's a brief summary, if you can tell us a little bit about your chapter meeting, if, you know, what were some of the things you discussed, and then anything about your chapter goals for this should be changed to 2019. My apologies, I just saw that. What are your goals for 2019? And these types of things just, again, can help us. We're not looking for a novel here. We're just looking for sort of quick overview to kind of understand what are our chapters looking at, what are they talking about, what are they focusing on. It helps us at a national level just understand where you are and how we can help support you.
Question?
Yes.
Yeah. I get from this that there's one person designated for the chapter who, first of all, compiles the results of everybody else and then enters that previous form, and then also fills out this form. Is that correct? There's a designated data compiler person?
Right. There would need to be a designated person that would that would be responsible for going to retrieve the data out of the response form. So whoever is the person who is sending out the link to the chapter members I would imagine would be that same person. So sort of there'd be a designated person, whether that's the chapter leader or that's a designee of the chapter, that's put in the leadership, the position of taking the lead on gathering the action reports and the data. So
yeah, and then I saw one of those questions, what are your plans for the year? That would be the same month after month.
well, I mean, it could certainly change. I think that here at a national, it could be planned, you know, we can change this too. But I think that the goals could potentially change through the year as we know, things in climate change are kind of an ongoing conversation. And I know for ECA National, we're having to kind of constantly assess and, you know, evaluate our approach and see if there's modifications that need to be made. So we could change this question if it's better suited to be, what are the goals your chapter has for the next period, you know, if we wanted to do it for a shorter period than the year.
Okay.
Well, I agree with that. Not only that, but the date 2018, I mean, we aren't Groundhog Day, so I think we're in 2019 now. I think, you know, what are your current goals for the chapter might be a way of formulating it, and then as things develop, having meaningful additions or commentary. I don't know what others think about that.
I can change that question to be, what are your current goals? That seems like a
Good idea.
And that, you know, that can then be things like growing our membership or reaching out to partner organizations or figuring out what will ring most with people in my area, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I could just mark this as no, I don't have to mark anything here necessarily. These aren't required. So if you really feel like you don't have anything to add this month in those categories, then you could leave them blank. And then submit. Your responses have been recorded and you're done. So that is now, all of that data now came to me and came to the leadership at ECA, and we will access that data and use it for the various purposes.
Right, and I want to reiterate what Jen has said, that there's a long list of things here, but don't feel and don't let your members feel that if they're clicking only one box in a questionnaire with 26 boxes, to feel bad. That's not the point. We've got a vast organization with members across the country with different things happening at different time periods. And we're trying to concatenate data that's coming from all those sources. And particular chapters, particular individuals, you know, may have long periods of time where they're fallow, and then things will come up. And so this is not a test or a grade. It's just a way of both gathering data that we can use at the big scale for fundraising, a way of identifying things that might be worth sharing across chapters or across the organization that would be helpful. So think of it as a tool and nothing more than that. And then after we've filled these out for our chapters in formation, dream of chapters for a couple of months, we'll come back and we'll sort of debrief among ourselves on the experience and see if we've got, ideas about whether there are ways to make it more useful and effective. Do we have questions right now coming out of Jen's demo?
Yeah. Have you beta tested this?
You are essentially our beta test. I have tried to have leadership of specific chapters beta tested, and nobody has taken the initiative to do it for me. So really, this process right now, that this conversation and asking you all to learn how to do it, is essentially the beta test for it.
So we're the leaders. We're the leaders on this aspect of our information gathering and self-reflection. Any other questions?
I see that there's a couple of questions about what about if you meet with a legislator's staff? I would say go ahead and log that as sent a letter, or sent a letter, made out-of-state phone calls, or met with. If you've made phone calls and talked to a legislative staff, or made phone calls or met with legislative staff, and then log that it was a legislative staff in the notes. And then emails and phone calls. Emails, we didn't specifically separate out as its own section, but again, I would just consider that, I would consider that in the column of letters.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And
these ambiguities may only become obvious as we're actually filling it out with our, individual information.
Now, this part is directed at the federal level, Congress?
No,
this could be to any of your local or state, it could be definitely more.
Well, then how do you differentiate?
You could differentiate that in the notes.
Yeah.
Okay.
We met with people at the county council and our, delegates at the state legislature on such and such.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, there is nothing magic about the federal versus the state or local. Right now, state and local is driving a lot of what needs to be done.
Right, but when you tabulate it at a national level, you want to know whether where those contacts were made, at what level of government.
That may be one of the refinements we decide to make in the future. Right now, let's see what the data is, and let's see what kind of narrative people provide to explain that data. We had numerous meetings at the state level, but have not met with any federal. Again, ultimately, at some point when we're much bigger and have more oomph, some of this breaking that data out will be important, so we can see. Let's see over the next couple of months how it goes.
And we've been through a few revision processes over the last year and a half with this process. We've been trying to activate a reporting process for about, I think it's been close to 2 years. And it's, as our chapters have grown, it's made it more of a thing we need to address and we need to come to a resolution with. Because before, when we were only 2 chapters, we could get the data from the chapters in a little bit more of a casual way. But now we're growing to where we have a number of chapters, and so figuring out how to bring that data in and manage that data with just me as the only paid consultant who only works 30 hours a week is the challenge. And so we're trying to figure out how to streamline that data, and then one of the reasons why it's sort of this long list with internumeric value is we originally went through versions that were sort of checkbox selections and things like that, but it's a matter of how the data also comes into the sheet at the end. So we really need things broken out into these different columns of data so we can come up with a number for these things rather than having checkboxes where it all dumps into one field in one column, you know, everything that you've selected via checkbox. Right. So, so if anybody has any ideas, and especially if you've used Google Forms in the past, but you have ideas for how to refine how we gather content or the data, then we're open to that. Cliff.
A couple things, if I could say. Number one, I want to applaud your just jumping in and settling on it, because I think there's a real danger that one could spend years getting the perfect system and miss out on an awful lot of data. So good for you that you've gone ahead. And having worked on a lot of these, I don't think this is a bad system at all. It may require some refinement, and I'd suggest maybe the smart thing is to intensely take in suggestions over the next like 3 months, but not the worst thing you could do is change it completely every other month.
Right.
So I do have one final question, which is I've entered some data and it's really hard to move on to the next question. It's giving me, I'm talking about the original form on the website.
Does yours have, are you accessing, you might be accessing it as a editor. Let me just.
Okay.
Yeah, I had that problem when I tried to go in. I was finding it impossible, and I was in editor mode. Yes, you're in editor mode.
Cliff, does yours look like this with this? Does it have this this stuff at the top? The view.
I'm going to go look at it right now if I can.
Like
that would be because you ended up in editor mode, and I don't know why it's setting you up.
Yes, I'm in editor mode. So how do I get out of editing mode?
I am going to remove all of you from editing mode.
Okay, before you do, can you save what I've put in already?
No, because you actually changed my form, so I have to go back and fix the form.
Oh, sorry about that.
It's okay, because I'm glad we caught the issue. So I will go into each of your chapter forms and make sure that you do not have editor access to that form.
Okay.
Then you will see it. If you go to the ECA website and you click from here, you won't see that. You will get but now see that's your form that you changed. So I will fix your form, but if we look at South Carolina's, we'll see it the correct way. Yeah. So from the website, you will always get a generic. The issue is that these forms live within a folder that's shared with you. So that's why it's giving you access to them in a different way. And so I need to take that access away out of those forms.
Okay, great. I just refreshed and now I have the form without the access.
Okay, perfect.
Good. Okay.
Yeah. But now your form I need to go back and fix. So it's
okay.
funky, but I will fix it.
Okay.
Question?
Sure.
You mentioned that you're going to do this for 2 months and then stop and see how everybody did. I'm just wondering if we could just keep going, because if we're collecting valuable data here, and so that, I mean, yeah, there's going to be some stumbles and there's going to be some, tweaks to make it easier or whatever. But it would be great to have a continuous record throughout the year of the data so that we could actually start using it.
Well, John, the plan is for everyone to do it for the next 2 months. Not to stop doing it, but for us to get together, to share ideas, get suggestions. Already I see popping up things that people are suggesting. Maybe there are other questions that should be part of the questionnaire. But we will start addressing that. But as Cliff said so wisely, you don't want to be changing something
Right.
every month or half month, here's a great idea. Oh, here's a change. We really need to look at it as it is, come up with our critical thoughts about how to make it better or information we need, brainstorm on that, figure out what modifications we want, make the modifications, and then continue.
Yeah.
And as situations change, we may alter it. Yes, Cliff.
And going back to one of John's concerns, if we are lucky, none of the existing questions will really change in a big way. They'll just be tweaked so that when you look back retrospectively at the data, it will begin today.
Right, and that's what I would say too. I think I know Francis has added some great suggestions here. You just brought to my mind one thing we do need to add in there is some way for logging the EVP project, which is a new project that's going to be rolling out. We're not quite ready yet, but we'll need to add some data about that to the report probably. And then some of those categories, some of those the main question might be modified just slightly, like to include elected and appointed officials, or to include, a little bit more distilled down explanation of things.
I have a comment. I've been collecting data for the whole year of 2018. And so that data is not lost, I'm going to go back now and quantify it as per the form.
Good job.
Okay, great.
So that'll be for 12 months.
Good.
Wonderful. Thank you, Shirley. And let me know when you get ready to put that data in, and we can talk about if it goes into that form, because I think it might be good to keep this form preserved for 2019. So we might make a second form and date it 2018.
Okay, well, my first charge will be to go through all this data and quantify it as the one from members, right? I'll be doing that for all of our members first. And then what you want to know is when I'm going to put it into
when you're ready to put it somewhere, like once you have that data quantified, then let me know and we can establish a place for that to go. So we can keep the 2019 report clean for 2019.
Cliff, did you have something you wanted to say? You're muted.
Oh, yeah.
I would suggest, Jen, by way of Shirley's suggestion, that when you've fixed any tweaks as of today on the 2019 form, you just label one 2018 backwards and encourage anyone who has back data to put it in there and not worry about it. But I think there's a virtue in allowing someone like Shirley to dump what she's got into some place that's an archive, because frankly, when I'm ready to dump something and move on, if you don't take it, it's gone. And so giving some place to put anything prior to 2019 is a virtue, even if it's imperfect.
Yeah.
And you're not going to get it perfect, and you don't need to.
Yep.
And with all the talk about the form and collecting that data and the very short descriptions of what people does, none of this prevents us as chapters from writing 1 or 2 paragraphs or an article on an initiative our chapter's undertaking, highlighting individuals. It could go in the newsletter, it can go on our chapter page. I mean, there are a lot of ways for us to get word out in a narrative form that boosts the energy and work of the chapter.
And I know I know our chapters really vary in size and scale. I know Massachusetts has a lot of membership, and so there could potentially be Northern California, same thing. They have a lot of people in their chapters as comparison to, say, Ann Arbor. And so, but I know that Ann Arbor is doing really amazing work, and so this is an opportunity for Ann Arbor, even if it's just Joe recording what Joe did for the month as Ann Arbor. I know that they're doing some really important work. Same thing with Arizona chapter. Beverly and Hazel, they might be a small and mighty chapter starting out, but they're involved in some really big things like the legislative day for the environmental legislative day for the state of Arizona and things like that's really important stuff for us to capture. So don't feel like your efforts are too small. I think all of those efforts, every time we write an email or a letter or send a text message, let's log that. That's, all of those contacts are really important. So no action too small. And then anything big, of course, we really want to capture those things. So if there's substantial things your chapter has accomplished or you're working on, or specific partnerships or things like that, acknowledgements, if you've been acknowledged in your community in some way as a chapter, all of that stuff we want to know for sure, because we want to brag about you.
So yes, this is all very important. We're coming close to 8 o'clock, and I had hoped that we would have time on tonight's call to sort of move on to two other questions. And that is, one is a sort of a round table. What do you see as your next step in building a chapter? And for some of us, it might be way off there. Oh, yeah, we're still trying to get our, feel for whether it's even possible to form a chapter. Or, yeah, we'd like to form a chapter and we'd like ECA to send out a notice to all the people who are in our state, who are on the ECA, who've signed into the ECA website to become members, at least nominally. Or, we're still sort of trying to figure out, and we're meeting with other environmental groups and we're talking to them and looking for the elder side of it. So one of the discussions was sort of, what are the next steps? And as part of that, what would help you? And what are your questions and concerns? And so we're not really going to get to that this evening. And I'm wondering whether any of you would be interested in having a call, and let me see, in a couple of weeks. And again, I know all our schedules are different, but we could set up ECA 103, which is, we're really sort of like a combined engagement committee and council of chapters. This is what those two committees do. They work on helping to form chapters, providing support, learning what they need, and sharing. And so if there is an appetite, then we could set up a call, and I'm looking at my calendar. Tuesday the 19th, I don't know if any of you would be available. Wednesday the 20th.
So Leslie, are you saying that the topic would be more in line with what the engagement and the Council of Chapters?
Well, my proposal for the next meeting would be for us to be sort of talking about sharing with each other. Where am I in building a chapter? What are my goals or ideas?
Well, will this group then morph into that, into those committees? Is that what you're saying?
This group will morph as it is productive and makes sense for them. That is, I would hope that the people on this committee would be part of the engagement committee and council of chapters. If they start forming a chapter and they have other members, those members might want to be part of the council of chapters, which again is a kind of a sharing, brainstorming, mutual mentoring place that we created a little over a year ago and has been very effective.
So in the meantime, is this group taking the place of?
Well, right now, yes, we are not having engagement committee or council of chapters calls. We haven't been having them for the last 2 months. The idea has been that we've got so many people who are forming new chapters, who are interested in forming chapters, that our energies should be combined to focus on the support we can provide, the information we need to get from them, the feedback. And, we're doing a so-so job. I mean, I know Cliff's got all kinds of questions, and I'm sure others do too. And sometimes we get them answered. Sometimes we think we answer them and they aren't being answered. So what we want to do is keep up the momentum and make sure that we're being responsive and providing whatever we can do to help those of you who are thinking of forming chapters, who've already, quote, formed a chapter, but really now need to grow it from the pool pie stage into a live, moving creature, that we can provide that support. Now, if any of you disagree with that, share with me, let me know. But it seems to me that provides the best for all of us.
Well, that sounds very reasonable, Leslie, what you just said.
Okay. Well, at least at the moment it's reasonable. We may all change our minds later on, but I'm not a lawyer for nothing if I can get something. Shall we tentatively set a meeting for the 19th at 7 p.m.?
Yes.
For me, but I would have to be out of here by about 6:15. I mean, yeah, 8:15 your time.
Okay.
Sure, I'm okay with that, Leslie, but I do have a question for Jen when you're done getting a head count
Okay.
on the 19th.
So we'll send out a notice with a link for a Zoom meeting on the 19th. In the meantime, it's true I have a day job. It's true that I'm on national committee calls most nights of the week, but do feel free to reach out to me. I may or may not be able to get back to you with substantive information or assistance, but we do everything we can.